Chapter 3 Aggressive Moves Part 2. The trip to Coruscant was met with little problems, surprisingly enough, given just how the crew of this Nubian ship had a lot happen to them, leaving Naboo, landing on an outer rim world controlled by a notorious gangster Furhut, hunted by a dark-side using assassin, and putting their fate of getting the necessary parts in the hands of a 9-year-old boy. Add to the fact they were being aided by the GD's rival, who was using what was the polar opposite of their power. So it was a nice change of pace for them, even if they knew it was only a small reprieve to what was going to happen when arriving on Coruscant. They knew it was only a matter of time before being sent back into the dangerous grip their enemies had planned for them back on Naboo. The GD stayed close to the Queen, providing her insight on what they knew about the Senate since she had never been to Coruscant or dealt with their politics. The Queen was accepting of their advice since she did not know what to expect, and had simply hoped the Senate would instantly act when told her story. Anakin and his mother Shmi were welcomed aboard the ship thanks to Padme, who had talked to the Queen about the elder Skywalker into being a handmaiden. Naturally, it was a quickly accepted decision, and one Shmi humbly accepted. The Queen had also assured the older woman that being a handmaiden was not like being a slave. For one, the Queen promised that once Naboo was freed from invasion, a proper home would be made for her, and a steady income too. As for Anakin, he was always welcome on Naboo when not focusing on his future GD duties, since Qui-Gon had made it clear to the boy he would become one. His potential in the Force was high and could become a great GD if he committed to it. Anakin accepted it, even when warned that it was a hard life, filled with hard truths, and the training itself would not be easy. Anakin didn't care. He had a chance to go out into the galaxy and fight against the evil that was out there that supported things like slavery. He would fight against such things, protect people from harm, and free other slaves in the process. Naturally, his mother was concerned for him, but Anakin assured her that with the GD training he would receive, it would be okay. Besides, Qui-Gon had told Shmi any kind of mission Anakin first went on wouldn't be for several years at least, and only after being brought up to speed with extensive training at the GD Temple, before being trained by his assigned GD Master. Of course, Qui-Gon didn't tell Anakin he planned to take the boy as his apprentice in a few years' time after Obi-Wan himself took the GD trials to become a GD Knight. As much as Qui-Gon wanted to take the boy as his GD Padawan now, the rules of the GD Order had forbid it, and would deny the GD Master outright. As for Vader, he kept his distance from the rest of the crew. He spent his days eating alone, training in private, and meditating in private. No one really wanted to be around him given the darkness that seemed to be around him, or the fact he was clearly some kind of dark entity similar to the one that tried to kill the Queen. While they were grateful to him for siding with her in this, it was clear his presence made people very nervous. Vader didn't mind, nor did he care about that. What he cared about was ensuring things went as planned. That his mother stayed safe, living well past the next 10 years, and not dying before her time. So far that plan was almost complete. Naboo never had problems with their sector of the galaxy after the Trade Federation lost to them. Even during the Clone Wars, the planet was almost never bothered, with the exception of one instance or two. Though Vader had planned to hire some discreet agents by that point to watch over and protect Shmi to help ensure she didn't die. The next part of the plan involved her son, Anakin Skywalker, getting it. This was going to be a difficult task given how those emotionless fools on the GD Council would see Anakin as something that went against their way of doing things for the last 1,000 years. Anakin Skywalker was more than just a child of prophecy that was foretold, but a boy who'd become a man, and would one day possibly try to inspire change in the GD Order. A change the GD Masters of this time did not want, and thus tried to change him in order to prevent the prophecy from one day forcing them to change with the times. It was no wonder the Force had decided enough was enough, and decided to destroy the GD Order after going against its will in Vader's time. In any case, the plan would soon reach the delicate stage when Qui-Gon would have to plead Anakin's case, and if need be become the boy's GD Master. Unlike last time though, Vader would make sure such a thing did happen, and that Obi-Wan did not do it in his place. The man had been incompetent in teaching Anakin when growing up, and was partially, in Vader's mind, responsible for the boy's mother dying. The Force had clearly showed Anakin those visions of her suffering for a reason, and yet Obi-Wan either did not believe they were visions or did believe, but was told to ignore them by the GD Council, in order to ensure the connection between family members was severed. At the very least, Obi-Wan could have brought Anakin's concerns about his mother to the Jedi Council for further examination. They could have even sent another Jedi to the damn planet to investigate just to be sure. Was it so hard to ask the Jedi Order to send at least one or two of their members out of over 10,000 Jedi within its ranks to go to Tatooine for the sake of the mother who birthed the Chosen One? They went on about. Regardless, Vader would make sure that was not an issue this time around. The Jedi had their chance with the prophecy, and now it was his turn for it to come to pass in the right way. The next and much larger task was instigating the Clone Wars. It had to happen. Vader knew it was bad to think such thoughts. War brought pain, suffering, death, and scars that did not heal long after the war was over. But war bred several positive things too, despite the horrors it brought upon others. Namely advanced technology. To take what was made available at the time and make it bigger, better, and easier to use. While the Empire had its faults, a lot of faults, it was highly advanced, and the advancements in technology it had would never been possible in such a short amount of time without the war. Medicine, prosthetics, and ships all advanced after the smoke cleared following the Clone Wars. It had taken the lives of billions of people, damaged or destroyed planets, and placing a Sith Lord on an imperial throne, but the progress was there. But the war could be contained, altered. The advancements could happen without such loss of life, but for it to work, Vader would need to get in contact with some of the key players. Some of them would have to be told certain things that would no doubt make them very unsettled with what the future held for them without his interference. There was also the risk of them seeking to take matters into their own hands, stop the future outright before it happened, and kill Sidious before the time was right. The Clone Wars wasn't just about advancing technology. It was about getting the galaxy to stop stagnating and to change with the times. To draw blood from the Republic and to draw poison from within the blood before it could spread to the point of killing it. Vader needed this war to make the Republic change, the Jedi to change, and to make the galaxy change. If it didn't, Vader knew nothing would stop the true enemy waiting deep in the unknown regions from invading the galaxy. Thrawn had been quite explicit in his reports about this enemy and what it meant for the entire galaxy if they were not dealt with upon their arrival. The Emperor had ignored the Chiss' concerns, saying the dark side of the Force, his Imperial war machine, and the Death Star, the first one, would be enough to stop this invasion when the time came to fight. But Vader was not one to leave things to chance. He was a military man and knew threats when he saw one, or the Force told him as much. It was one of the reasons why Vader had secretly made Thrawn his ally, who would have supported him after the plan to eventually overthrow the Emperor in the previous timeline was successful. In exchange for the blue-skinned strategist's support for ruling the Empire with his son by his side, the constantly calculating Grand Admiral would be given all the ships, weapons, resources, and tactical manpower to repel this future enemy. But things never go as planned. They never do. With this alteration to the timeline, Vader knew he had to obtain key people before Sidious did. "Lord Vader," said Captain Panaka before he knocked on the nearby wall to get the Sith's attention from his mediation. "What is it, Captain?" asked Vader, but already knew. "We will be arriving on Coruscant shortly. We have been given clearance to land and will be landing in a few hours," replied Captain Panaka, knowing the Sith Lord had made it clear to inform him of when they would be near the planet. "Good. I will meet everyone at the boarding ramp shortly," said Vader, well once more glad Padme had such a competent captain as her head of security. With Sidious. Sidious was not happy. He was far from happy. His apprentice failed him. Failed. What is worse, there was nothing Maul could tell him about this enemy except his name. Darth Vader. An imposing name for an imposing Sith. But it did not help Sidious in planning on how to combat this threat to his future rule and the grand plan. Maul had only been able to give a brief description of Vader and the skill with a lightsaber far surpassing the Zabrac's own. Granted, his so-called apprentice didn't use its full potential, but Sidious knew from how Maul described Vader's skill that using the double-bladed fighting style would not have improved the odds of defeating his enemy. It was troubling to put it lightly. As for Maul's multiple failures, he punished his apprentice harshly to the point where the Zabrac would need to spend time in a back-to-tank for several days. Even in the tank, Maul would feel pain as Sidious had designed the tanks his apprentice used to attack a body's nervous system. However, the one thing Sidious noticed when preparing his apprentice's punishment, he noticed Maul did not look afraid, or even surprised by the act itself. His body had tensed, the mind showing signs of building up a defense, and eyes showing the Zabrak was determined to take what was dished out on him instead of cowering, like he had done in the past. Again, it was unsettling to Sidious that his apprentice would be so well prepared for him when every other time Maul had been never prepared for an attack, always accepting his punishments when he failed, or the learning from various lessons on pain when it came teaching him. But now there were signs of defiance in Maul's eyes. The so-called student had the seeds of ambition to move farther planted in his mind. By Vader, no doubt. Sidious now suspected Vader had informed Maul of what would happen when returning to him after losing. No doubt the loss had ignited something in Maul to desire being strong enough to defeat Vader and even Sidious himself one day. All the more reason to remove Maul from the game board soon. If the Zabrak learned he was just an expendable asset instead of a future Sith Lord, it would jeopardize the grand plan further. Which is why Sidious had ordered Maul to Naboo to not only ensure the Viceroy didn't do anything stupid, but to keep his apprentice away from Coruscant. He didn't need his tool to do something stupid and attack Vader. Again at this time on such a populated planet where the Jedi were located. He knew they would be watching Vader, and Sidious did not need them seeing Maul before possibly finding Maul's residency in the works. When word reached him via his senatorial aide that the Nubian ship carrying the Queen had arrived, Sidious nearly cursed since it had nearly slipped past him. Keeping up the facade of a polite and honest senator, he thanked his aide, and quickly used the speeder transport system used by senators and Supreme Chancellor to arrive at the landing pad. As expected, the two Jedi came out to greet them before the bodyguards, and finally the Queen herself while surrounded by her handmaidens. Some of them were similar in their height, hair, and even facial features with that of the Queen. He had heard rumors on how past queens had used handmaidens as doubles in times of crisis on Naboo, but did not believe one was being used now. Next came a boy, his mother, and some alien creature. Possibly a Gungan from what he knew of his own planet's history. The child was curious and in awe of the planet. The mother was nervous, yet hopeful. Clearly a mother and son pair from the lowly and backwater outer rim planet the Queen had hidden herself on after escaping Naboo. The Gungan and the mother were irrelevant. What was relevant was the boy and his shining presence within the Force singing and showed him the boy's potential in it. The ideal apprentice. With him, Sidious could have the means to crush the Jedi, and even that fool Vader in the years to come. Speaking of Vader, when Sidious saw him descend from the ramp, his eyes widened at seeing and sensing the man through the Force. So much power. So much darkness within a single person. It rivaled his own and was even younger than Sidious. Yet despite the young age, Vader was in complete control of his power. Not the other way around. Something that few Sith could do, and said control usually took years to master far beyond the young age this man was showing despite his HUD hiding it. Your Majesty, I am pleased you made it here alive. Communications with Naboo have ceased, and we feared the worst had happened, said Sidious, while now playing the role of kind and supportive senator. Palpatine. Thank you, Senator, said the Queen before bowing to the man with respect. May I present Supreme Chancellor Valorum, said Palpatine, while Valorum stood there looking tall, proud, and ready to help the Queen. Sidious found it amusing how easy it was to fool people, and his pawns for advancement were doing such a thing as well, without even knowing they were in the process. By the time Valorum's true power, or lack of it, was revealed to the Queen in public when she was making her appeal to the Senate, Sidious knew his ascension would be at hand. Your Highness, rest assured we will get to the bottom of this and end this crisis on Naboo immediately, said Valorum, while the Queen nodded and was quickly escorted to the nearby speeder cars to take them to Ambassador Suites where queens, kings, and senators resided. I must speak to the Jedi Council. The situation has become much more complicated, said Qui-Gon to Valorum, and had to stop himself from looking at Vader. Of course, said Chancellor Valorum before turning to see Vader approaching. I request a proper medic and droid with surgical skills be sent to the Queen's suite, said Vader, while Valorum tried not to look intimidated by him. And slightly failing. May I ask why? Asked Valorum before Vader gestured to the boy and his mother. These two have slave chips with explosives were surgically implanted in their bodies. While both chips have been deactivated, I would prefer they not stay there and have to risk someone trying to reactivate them, said Vader while Shmi gasped, and Anakin had grabbed his mother's hand tightly. Neither had considered the idea that just because the chips were shut down, it didn't mean someone might try to find the frequency to turn them on. You have been busy, remarked Valorum to Qui-Gon, since this mission kept getting stranger as time went. You have no idea, whispered Obi-Wan, but was heard by the people in front of him. Please excuse the Jedi's Padawan. He is an idiot, said Vader while Obi-Wan sputtered at the insult, and Anakin held back a smirk. I understand. If you will all follow me to the transports, we can get everyone situated and sent to their destination, said Valorum, while motioning for all of them to follow him. 500 Republica senatorial suites. I'm afraid the Senate is not what it once was, Your Majesty. It is filled with scheming delegates and squabbling bureaucrats seeking to take more for themselves. Nothing much gets done these days when the Senate is in session listening to someone prattling on about one thing or another. You will find no real friends in the Senate aiding our cause or any real help from the Supreme Chancellor himself, said Palpatine before he let out a sigh as if the whole thing was hopeless. And skillfully ignoring the crimson-yellow eyes of the Sith Lord, Darth Vader, watching their conversation with great interest. The boy and his mother were in the other room of the senatorial suite with a doctor and surgical droids skillfully removing the slave chips from them. Supreme Chancellor Valorum is our strongest supporter. Surely he will use the power of his office to call on the Senate to aid us, countered the Queen, while she saw Palpatine did not look convinced. I'm afraid the Supreme Chancellor doesn't hold any real power in the Senate. His own term is nearly up and is constantly surrounded by baseless accusations of corruption. Any political power he may have had in the past has long since been spent, my dear. We are on our own unless, said Palpatine while looking like he thought of something. Unless? Asked the Queen curiously. You could call for a vote of no confidence in Supreme Chancellor Valorum. After the vote is called, the Senate can remove him from his position. Afterwards, they would elect a new Supreme Chancellor. One that could essentially control the bureaucrats to a certain degree, and possibly aid us in dealing with the army of the Trade Federation, currently invading our home planet, offered Palpatine while seeing the Queen looking uncertain. What is the alternative? Asked the Queen curiously. If you do not call for the vote of no confidence, you would have to take your case and appeal it before the courts instead, answered Palpatine and inwardly smirked since he had plenty of the necessary influence there to tangle any decision there for years. The courts take even longer than the Senate, said the Queen, since the Jedi had told her much how things worked prior to arriving on Coruscant. I'm afraid those are your options, my dear. There is no other recourse, said Palpatine while trying to sound sympathetic to her plight, given how they were both from the same planet. Sidious sometimes found it amazing how one who feels nothing for others could sound like he was most gentle heart in the entire galaxy. Those options are not enough, Senator. I will find a third option. Even if it is considered questionable by others, stated the Queen with conviction in her voice, while Palpatine gave her I wish you the best of luck look before leaving the room. The third option, Your Majesty, I believe would be myself and my tactical expertise, said Vader while having listened to the entire conversation in the corner. I'm afraid you are correct, Lord Vader. The Senate and the courts are not showing much promise in being reliable for aid as I had first hoped they would, said the Queen, while Vader nodded. Politics is a dangerous game, Your Majesty. In order to get the Senate to move in your favor, you must give them a reason to use their resources aid you. What is in it for them to mobilize an entire fleet of ships or army capable and strong enough to repel the Trade Federation? The answer is sadly nothing. At least, until you do one thing I know your heart does not want to do, replied Vader with the Queen looking at him narrowed eyes. And that is? Asked the Queen. Play on their fears, Your Majesty. Play on their fears that if they this leave unchallenged and let the Trade Federation take your planet that they could be next, answered Vader while the Queen did not like such a tactic. Your answer to my problems is indeed questionable, remarked the Queen, while Vader walked over to the window to gaze down at the city below. Perhaps. But it is the only tactic available to you that the Senator of Naboo did not yet offer to make the Senate answer your call for aid, countered Vader before turning to face her. How would this tactic make the Senate act? Asked the Queen with Vader doing a form of pacing he did when thinking on a tactical level. If the Senate did nothing, it would set a very bad precedent. One where the Republic does not care about its own worlds it is supposed to protect. It also tells the rest of the galaxy that any planet with a strong enough army can invade another planet within the Republic without fear of any kind of reprisal, either from the Senate itself or the overall governing body of the Republic. In short, any planet with strong financial and military manpower can do what it wants without being punished for the crime. sparking a sudden desire to make up new territory as one planet is conquered after another while being influenced under the senator who has the world invaded. It would only cause further chaos within the Republic and bring about its own self-destruction, said Vader with the Queen's eyes widening. And you wish for me to use this possibility to make them act against such a precedent, said the Queen while Vader nodded. When you stand before the Senate to appeal your case, you must do exactly as I say, and do not call for vote of no confidence on Supreme Chancellor Valorum, said Vader, as he began to instruct the Queen on what to say before the Senate. Vader had the ammo, and the Queen had the blaster. All that was needed now was for the Sith Lord to make sure the Queen was locked and loaded with the means to point it at the Senate. In any case, it would be interesting to watch. GD Temple at the moment. You left the Queen with the Sith Lord? Asked Mace Windu with his tone of voice all but screaming his disapproval, and wondering if he heard the two GD in this room. Yes, Master, said Obi-Wan while trying to meet the man's fierce gaze. Let me repeat this so you can fully understand what I just said, Padawan Kenobi. You left the Queen with the Sith Lord, said Mace Windu, while his intense Please, Master Windu, do not take your frustration out on Obi-Wan. I am equally at fault for not doing more, said Qui-Gon, while Mace shifted his eyes from apprentice to master with the same glare. Equal? You are more at fault here, Master Jin. You not only allowed this Sith Lord to remain near the Queen on the ship during your travel here, but also allowed him to take control of certain aspects of your mission, said Mace Windu, while Qui-Gon winced at the words since they were true. It wasn't his fault, Master Windu. When we first encountered Darth Vader, we tried to fight him in the belief he was there to kill the Queen. He bested us. Easily, said Obi-Wan while Mace did not look impressed, and neither did most of the other GD Masters in the room. So you claim, said Master Proof skeptically. Master, I do not take what happened to us lightly. I have not been bested like that since my days as a Padawan under Master Dooku. He could have killed us easily, said Qui-Gon while staring at Yoda and seeing the GD Grandmaster remained impassive during this discussion. Besides, even if we wanted to bring Vader here to the GD Temple, the Queen insisted he stay with her for additional protection. She wasn't about to take no for an answer, said Obi-Wan, knowing that much was true. And we couldn't exactly fight him again, Master Proof. Not in front the Queen, Senator Palpatine, or the Supreme Chancellor on the landing pad, added Qui-Gon, knowing an act like that would not end well. This Sith Lord needs to be brought in for questioning. The sooner we learn what he knows, the better prepared we are against this hidden Sith Lord hiding from our sight, said Master Mundi with Qui-Gon. Nodding. I will talk to him, Masters. It will not be easy, but I believe I could convince Vader into having some kind of meeting with you, said Qui-Gon, though he was skeptical about it. Convince him to talk to us you can? Questioned Master Yoda while Qui-Gon nodded. Despite his dislike of the GD Order and GD in general, I sense he respects me to some degree. I do not know why, but I sense that he trusts me to some degree, said Qui-Gon while the GD Masters around him looked skeptical in his assessment of Vader. Use that trust to convince him you will, Qui-Gon. Speak to this Darth Vader you will. Convince him to come here for questioning you must succeed, said Master Yoda with Qui-Gon nodding before he decided to switch the topic of discussion and talk about what he discovered when they landed on Tatooine. Republic Senate building. The Republic Senate was the governing body of the Galactic Republic and had been for several thousand years. It was considered the pinnacle of galactic governmental society and the embodiment of what it meant to live in a civilized manner. At the moment, the Republic Senate was filled with hundreds of senators representing hundreds of planets, each being called to an emergency session of Congress by the Supreme Chancellor, who had assured the Queen of Naboo she would have her justice in this case. However, the Queen was not so sure given what Senator Palpatine had told her, and what Vader added, following her initial reluctance to use his tactics to get what she needed. Most of the senators of the Republic are greedy and corrupt. The honest ones are too few and too powerless to help, even if they rallied together. Unless you can offer the corrupt senators an incentive far greater than if the Trade Federation approached them, you will fail. The GD see the corruption, but do nothing. They are puppets. They obey the will of the Senate over obeying the will of the Force. They should know better, but have let their own ignorance blind them, and let their arrogant belief in being superior to others simply by using the Force has weakened them considerably. Do not rely on the GD to send you the aid needed to best the Trade Federation. Your enemies have powerful friends capable of repelling any real help from them. Those had been Vader's words. Powerful, but were true nonetheless. She had seen how far her enemies would go to hunt down those they considered threats, even employing someone like the one Vader. Fought on Tatooine. Granted, Vader won the fight, but would the same be said if the assassin had fought one or both Jedi assigned to protect her? It was hard to say. Ladies and gentlemen, gentle beings the galaxy over, today we have come before you with the gravest of travesties. One that started here when we taxed all the major trading routes throughout the Republic's outlying star systems. To present our case, I give you Queen Amidala of Naboo, said Senator Palpatine before he stepped aside and let the Queen herself step forward. Honorable representatives of the Galactic Republic, I come to you under the gravest of circumstances. The Naboo system has been invaded by the droid armies of the Trade Federation, said the Queen, but that was as far as she got when her plea was rudely interrupted. I object. There is no proof. This is incredible. We recommend a commission be sent to Naboo to ascertain the truth, said Lot Dodd, who was the senator representing the Trade Federation. The Senate does not recognize the senator from the Trade Federation at this time, said Supreme Chancellor Valorum before he was. The senator of Mallister agrees with the honorable member of the Trade Federation. A commission must be sent, declared Senator Axmo of Mallister. By this point, Valorum was pulled away from the podium and was being spoken to by one of his advisors. Enter the bureaucrats, twisting the law to benefit those they truly serve. They're the real power in the Senate and on the peril of the Trade Federation. This, Your Majesty, is where Supreme Chancellor Valorum's power fails, whispered Palpatine into the Queen's ear, while Valorum seemed to become submissive to the will of the advisors around him. The motion is sustained. Will you defer your own motion and allow the commission to proceed? Asked Valorum after he submitted to the influence of the Queen's enemies. I will not defer. I came for your aid against our sovereignty now. I was not elected just to watch as my people suffer and die while you discuss this in a committee. The army of the Trade Federation is on my planet illegally while imprisoning, torturing, and killing my people to force me into submission. The Queen shot back angrily at the Supreme Chancellor, and it was clear to her that the corruption in the Senate was indeed rampant here. We all feel your pain and your plight, Your Majesty, but as stated by the senator from the Trade Federation, there is no proof to your accusations, unless you can provide any form of evidence regarding these accusations against them. The motion will indeed carry, and a commission will have to be made to discuss this further. I will ask you once again, Queen Amidala, do you have any such evidence to support your accusations against the Trade Federation at this time? Questioned Valorum while clearly seeing the ever-smug look on the Trade Federation's face. Imagine his shock and the shock of others when the Queen said a few simple words. Yes, I do have such proof, said the Queen firmly. And like that, the silence in the Senate was shattered by the loud roar of all the senators around her, voicing their different opinions on the issue. Some calling to see this evidence the Queen possessed. Others claimed she was lying to further smear the good name of the Trade Federation. Order. Order. We will have order, declared Maz Amedda while secretly glancing at Sidious, who was also genuinely stunned by the fact the woman had proof of the Trade Federation's illegal invasion. Sidious was not expecting this to go the way it did right now. He was expecting the ever-naive Queen to place a vote of no confidence on Chancellor Valorum, after seeing just how corrupt the Senate was. He had arranged for one of the senators in his back pocket to nominate him and use the invasion to get the sympathy vote from the senators who were not corrupt, along with the majority of those who were. Once he was Supreme Chancellor, Sidious would spend the next 10 years secretly plotting and planning for the Republic to rip itself in two, in order to instigate a massive war that would pave way for his empire. But not only did the Queen not cast the vote, but she had proof as well. While Sidious could still play this to his advantage later, he didn't want to wait until Valorum's term was over. He wanted to be Supreme Chancellor now. If you have evidence to prove these accusations are true, Your Majesty, please show it to us now, said Valorum, knowing this would probably be the only time he could use his authority to combat the corruptive element within the Senate. Gladly, Supreme Chancellor, said the Queen before she held out a data stick kept hidden in her hand and clothing, due to her attire blocking it from view, no matter how close they were. Where did you get that? Whispered Palpatine while the Queen stayed silent before she inserted it into the system. This data stick holds the proof of the invasion of my planet, and was obtained during my escape at great risk to those who entrusted me to bring justice down upon the invaders, said the Queen before the lights in the Senate dimmed, and a holo recording from the eyes of the Trade Federation battle droid commander began to play. The holo recording began to show the battle droid commander marching with its unit through the streets of Naboo, with the citizens fleeing in fear. It soon changed to show the images of it walking through the prison encampments where people were placed while other Trade Federation battle droids stood guard. It soon came to the spot where the battle droid commander came face to face with the Viceroy, Nute Gunray, and what was spoken with his fellow associates. Round up as many of the citizens on this planet as you can. I want hundreds of them ready for execution before we force the Queen to sign the treaty. Should she refuse to sign it and make our invasion legal, I want them executed one by one before her very eyes. After seeing so many of her people slaughtered, the foolish girl will get on her knees begging to sign it. After she does sign the treaty, we'll have her executed as well, said Viceroy Gunray with his four-man voice clear in the recording for all to see and hear. But won't that raise suspicion? Legal or not, the death of the Queen could make trouble for us in the Senate, said another Nemodian beside the Viceroy. It matters not. We have powerful friends in the Senate. A bribe to a senator here. A gift there. Even an incentive to visit Naboo after we turn it into one of our pleasure planets should be enough. We will even give our friends a considerable discount when they are here in order to make any infraction made go away or be ignored. Besides, after we have the Queen is executed, we can make up any plausible story we want, and present it to the Senate with the fake evidence to further back our own claims of innocence, answered the Viceroy with his smug confidence clearly being heard in the recording. Many in the Senate were furious hearing this blatant confession. Senator Lot Dodd was now starting to get extremely nervous, and his ally from Nalister was also looking like he was ready to break out in a heavy sweat. Across the way, Darth Sidious was raging inside at how the Viceroy was so easily speaking of his plans to execute Nubian citizens, and the Queen herself, long after the treaty was signed. The only good thing so far was that the idiot fool did not mention his true name in this record or anyone else that might be backing the Viceroy. He would need to examine the data stick later after getting it from the Queen following this session. Sidious also made a mental note to contact Maul and give him orders to kill the Viceroy once this whole thing was resolved and the Viceroy was still alive at the end of it. What of the GD? We have not found them yet. If the Republic finds out we tried to kill the Supreme Chancellor's GD ambassadors, we will be thrown in jail for sure, said the Nemodian associate of the Viceroy. They are no doubt on the planet's surface, but it doesn't matter. Not even 2 GD can match the overwhelming strength of our droid army. We will find and kill them both eventually. Maybe even keep their weapons as trophies or sell them for profit on the black market. Who knows what one of their weapons is worth to the right buyer with a deep enough credit pouch, said Nute Gunray, while his laughter was echoing in the room for all to hear. Your orders, sir? Asked the battle droid commander. What? You are still here, go and carry out my orders, bellowed Nute Gunray since he wasn't expecting the droid to just stand there the entire time. Roger. Roger, said the battle droid commander before it marched about carrying out the command. The recording soon changed to battle droid commander leading its unit to round up the Nubian populace, and even ordering several be shot when they tried to resist. Some of the weak-stomached senators looked ready to lose their expensive lunch from one or more of their stomachs. Others gasped and some fainted at the horror of seeing the battle droids and their assigned battle droid commander carry out their order to capture or kill various members of the Nubian populace. Soon the image came of the hangar where the droid commander had finished up with its capture of the latest batch of prisoners, before it focused on the image of Darth Vader. Even the holo recording of the Sith Lord was an intimidating sight before showing how the droid commander had easily been dispatched and hitting the wall. But surprisingly the droid did not shut down from the impact right away and had a clear view of the fighting that started before the recording ended. And that, ladies and gentlemen of the Senate and esteemed Supreme Chancellor, is my proof. Proof that the Trade Federation had illegally invaded my homeworld without fear of being punished by the Senate or the Republic itself. If you do nothing after what you just witnessed, it will declare throughout the galaxy an unsettling precedent. One that says any civilization on any world, even your own world, can be targeted by the Trade Federation without fear. Is that what you want? If so, please remain silent on the issue and show your heartlessness for all here to see with their own eyes, declared the Queen of Naboo before she glared at the senator from the Trade Federation, currently trying to find some way to spin this in the Trade Federation's defense. And failing. In an instant, the Senate was in uproar, calling for sanctions against the Trade Federation and the stripping of their right to have a senatorial position in the Republic. They were a business conglomerate, not a designated planet, or even representing the Nemodian homeworld for that matter. Order. Order. This Senate will have order, bellowed Mazumeta, but even his voice and commanding tone could not silence the roar of the Senate. With the various outcries that something be done echoing for well over 20 minutes before the Supreme Chancellor had a chance to speak. In light of this overwhelming evidence presented by Queen Amidala of Naboo, I call for a vote to create paramilitary army, one capable of successfully liberating the planet of Naboo from the illegal invasion done by the Trade Federation, said Supreme Chancellor Valorum, with the Senate instantly rallying to the cause, all while chanting vote now, vote now, vote now, with the senator from the Trade Federation whimpering at this overwhelming support the Queen from Naboo was getting. Even the senator from Mallister, who seconded his motion, was calling for the voting to begin and was ready to vote against the Trade Federation. "It seems you have your support, my queen," said Palpatine, while inwardly seething at how his plan to ascend to Supreme Chancellor was delayed. How could she have gotten such evidence? Could it have been the Sith Lord? Vader was surely cunning enough. It was clear from what little was seen of Vader's fighting skills in the holo recording that the man was a warrior type of Sith, but not like the brutish ones that drowned in bloodlust. No. This was a tactical warrior type of Sith, one who could outthink as well as outfight his opponents. A dangerous combination. The Jedi had long since abandoned such military tactical thinking. They would have never thought to use the battle droid commander and to access its memory processor for the proof the Queen needed to validate her claim of Naboo being invaded. Now he would most likely wait until Valorum's term was completely over, while Palpatine could still be nominated for appointment as the new Supreme Chancellor, using the invasion of Naboo to get the sympathy vote would nearly be spent by that time. Not that it mattered if he had the sympathy vote or not, the senators in Sidious's back pocket obtained during his time working the Senate would be given their marching orders soon enough when the time came. The plan was merely delayed, not ruined. "That and more," said the Queen, while she made a mental note to thank Vader for the evidence he had provided on the data stick. "It won't be long now. Of course, even with the paramilitary army supporting you, it will take quite a few weeks if not months to conscript decisions on what ships to send, who is best equipped to use them. How massive a fleet do we need to combat the fleet of the Traitor Federation? How much will those fighting and possibly dying to liberate Naboo be paid in compensation for their efforts? The assembling of such a force will take time, Your Majesty," said Palpatine after they arrived in his senatorial office, and she was now staring out the window in thought. In his mind, Sidious knew he would have to use his influence to make the assembling of the paramilitary army slow to crawl if necessary. "I understand, Senator. Which is why I will not wait for the army I need to be assembled by the Republic. I have decided to return home and face my enemy there on my terms," said the Queen to the shocked look on Palpatine's face. "But Your Majesty, they will force you sign the treaty," protested Palpatine while the Queen looked unafraid. "I will sign no treaty, Senator. If necessary, my fate will merely be the same as my people should I become their prisoner," said the Queen firmly. "What will you do?" asked Palpatine in his best, "I am concerned for your welfare" voice, while hoping to get some insight into her plan, in order to possibly counter it. "Despite what I have done here, I now see the Republic cannot function like I had hoped it would upon my arrival. This is your arena, Senator. I must now return to mine," said the Queen before she walked away from Palpatine to make preparations. Fortunately, in this time of conflict where battle was imminent, she had someone with a warrior's mind on call, and one the Queen needed to consult. And unlike the Senate, the Queen knew Vader would not be held down by time and procedures when direct action was the best course of action in this moment. "Hyperspace Nubian transport sometime later. This is highly risky, Your Majesty. If we return to Naboo, there is a chance you will be caught, tortured, and forced to sign the treaty, regardless of the support you have gained from the Senate," said Captain Panaka, while he didn't want that to happen to her. "And I can only protect you. I can't fight a war for you. The Jedi Order are keepers of the peace, not soldiers of war," said Qui-Gon, while Obi-Wan said nothing, but kept his face staring forward. The two had only barely begun to speak to each other after the deciding moment when the Jedi Council regarded Anakin's fate as a possible Jedi. When they said no, it had been devastating to Qui-Gon to see such a strong Force-sensitive child be turned away merely due to his age. There had been some instances in the past where they had made exception for possible candidates even older than Anakin. It had made no sense. Not to mention the boy was clearly the chosen one the GD prophecy foretold. He had sensed it from the boy, and yet the GD still said no. It didn't make sense to him. Not only that, but Anakin himself at the time looked like someone had just trampled on his spirit without so much as an apology. It didn't help that Vader's prediction of what the GD would do had come true. The Sith Lord had warned Qui-Gon not to get his initial hopes up with the GD Order accepting the boy due to his age or the attachment Anakin had with his mother. When Qui-Gon asked why Vader would try to help Anakin become a GD instead of a Sith, the semi-masked man let out a chuckle before becoming serious. The boy has potential. Why would I wish for it to be denied? As for my reasons for not training him myself, the best person to help him reach his potential is you GD. Not me. Not the hidden Sith lying in wait. Train the child in your own way. And Vader was right. No sooner had the GD Council said no to Anakin's admittance, did Qui-Gon act to claim the boy as his new Padawan to get the boy in. It was a nice little law in the GD Order that if a Master chose a Force-sensitive child as their Padawan, the child was automatically younger Padawan of the Order. Slightly behind him at the time, his current Padawan Obi-Wan Kenobi had not been happy about that action performed in the Council chambers. Even when Qui-Gon wished for Obi-Wan to take the necessary GD Knight trials, it seemed to an outside observer that the GD Master was seeking to make way to achieve his directive in claiming Anakin as his GD Padawan. Hence why the two GD were not speaking to each other much right now. As for Vader, he was also in the room waiting for his turn to speak, since he recalled this moment in time well, despite the fact things had now changed. For now, the Queen would hear the warriors and the words of caution spoken by those with so-called wisdom. It was sheer arrogance on the GD Order's part to send these two the first time around, when the evidence of Maul being marked as the return of the Sith invaders timeline was clear as day. Why just send these two GD to protect the Queen? Why not send more GD? Master Windu maybe. Or perhaps Master Mundi. They didn't have any major cases at the time and could have aided Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan in liberating Naboo. It just further proved the arrogance of the GD back in his time frame, and the GD Order in this new one he was making. Even now, they were just going to sit back while these two GD protected the Queen. And wait for Sidious to make his move in the hopes the man would reveal himself. They never considered Maul would be dispatched in his place in order to throw them off. Fools. The lot of them. Lord Vader, I need your advice on how you feel we should proceed, said the Queen, while Vader nodded and approached the woman with respect. Your Majesty, will you have myself, the GD, and the people of Naboo ready to fight when given the command? It will sadly not be enough. In order to defeat the army of the Trade Federation, you will need an army of your own. One made up of warriors who are willing to fight and die for their planet, and the belief that they would prefer to die free over that of living as slaves. While the Nubian people would fight and die for their planet, they do not have the means to arm themselves for the inevitable battle with the army of the Trade Federation. You will need more, said Vader with the Queen nodding and turned to look at Jar Jar Binks. Jar Jar Binks, step forward, commanded the Queen. May see your Majesty? Asked Jar Jar with the Queen nodding. You told my handmaiden that the Gungan people are fighters. Warriors. And they have an army ready to fight, correct? Questioned the Queen with Jar Jar nodding. Ye see your Majesty. Gungans are proud warriors. When in trouble, we go to sacred place to hide and plan. Mace show you. Exclaimed Jar Jar while the Queen nodded. Good. Please do. I wish to meet the leader of your people to help repel a common enemy we both share, said the Queen. I wise course your Majesty. But an army without a strategy to use them is just us having a large pile of soon-to-be dead bodies to command. A plan must be devised if we are to ensure complete victory over our enemy's much larger army, said Vader, knowing the station above could easily replace the droid army on the ground through their small yet still effective droid manufacturing system in it. Which is why I have you to help prepare our strategy after the alliance is made, said the Queen, while Vader nodded before he departed from the room to prepare his strategy. Coruscant at the moment. You want me to kill you? Came the female voice on the encrypted comm channel Sidious was using. A Sith Lord named Darth Vader, my dear. He is traveling with the Queen of Naboo to her home planet to free it from the Trade Federation's blockade. He is a threat to my plans, said Sidious to the female assassin on the other line. Oh? Since when do Sith Lords kill other Sith Lords? Asked the female assassin while Sidious's eyes narrowed. Be careful what you say in front of me, assassin. This Sith Lord can kill you with a flick of his wrist right here and now, threatened Sidious while the assassin smirked. and lose a valuable asset. We both know not even you would go that far. Not when my services are clearly last minute, said the woman on the other line, and Sidious scowled further. Be as that may, this enemy should be a good test of your skills. Adding 2 GD into the affair should be enough to interest you, replied Sidious, while the woman on the other line scowled now. You should have started with the offer for killing the GD first. I love to kill GD. It is a pleasure beyond measure for me. Double the payment to kill the Sith Lord, and I'll kill the GD for free, said the female assassin eagerly. Done. Head to Naboo. My apprentice will either be fighting Vader or the GD. Whoever he doesn't fight first, you get to kill the other in his place, said Sidious with the female assassin smirking. So I either get paid for killing a Sith Lord, or I get to enjoy the ecstasy of killing not 1, but 2 GD. Either way I win, said the female assassin before she ended the connection. Wrong, my dear assassin. No matter what happens here, I will win. You are just a pawn. A piece on the board that I have to play early on. But considering my situation with this Sith Lord, I need to use what tools I can spare for this particular mission. Considering your own history with the GD Order, this will only help me in the long run, Aurra Singh, said Sidious, while he smirked knowing the crazed GD hating woman would be useful in killing the 2 GD and maybe even Vader, if he was weakened enough from fighting Maul. There was also the chance that even if Maul survived his encounter with Vader, he would go after Aurra Singh herself. Not that he cared. One way or another, Maul would die, and Sidious would be able to wipe his hands clean of his so-called apprentice in order to focus on a far more impressive prize worth his time in the near future. Anakin Skywalker. With Aurra Singh. Aurra Singh leaned back in her chair. The combat boots she wore were now on the ship's console, while she thought about what Sidious was offering. A massive sum of credits for the head of a Sith Lord. 2. Think another one was out there walking around without fear of being attacked. She had felt him through the Force and damn near tripped over herself when sensing his presence. Vader's strength in the Force was that of a monster unlike anything she ever felt before today in his cosmic presence. She had been around her fair share of GD and other Force sensitives, but this Sith Lord she was hired to kill had blown them out of the water. She almost wished he was a GD, and achieved the ultimate thrill in killing him for the sheer fun of it. Still, killing a Sith Lord was a rarity unto itself. Her current client being one, but choosing to keep his location a secret in case she decided to hold it over him. Not that she would. At least not until her life was in a really threatened to the point where such information would save it from annihilation. One Sith in hiding and the other out in the open. Polar opposites of their order, and one was trying to kill the other. Not only that, but the Sith sent his rabid animal Maul to fight Vader again. Or almost. Laughed at that. Maul besting Vader. Unlikely. Vader was no doubt skilled with a lightsaber as he was strong in the Force. Maul may have a double-bladed lightsaber, but there was always a considerable chance Vader had the skills to defeat even that particular type of weapon. And let's not forget the GD on Naboo, thought Aurra with a smile on her face at the thought of killing 2 GD doing their sacred duty in protecting its queen. From the intel that her Sith client was so generous to provide, it was a GD master and his ever so loyal Padawan. While she would have preferred to fight 2 masters or 1 master in a night, this suited her needs perfectly. She would bath in the blood of these GD and do it in front of the queen herself. Hell, she might just shoot the queen right in her royal head just to keep the sensation of the aftermath alive. Afterwards, she would go after Vader. Provided Maul didn't beat her to the punch. Even if he somehow bested Vader in battle, Aurra wasn't going to let Maul enjoy his victory. The bounty hunter assassin got the impression her Sith client was not happy with Maul, and would pay her extra to take his head too. It would be one hell of a bloodbath. With Vader. Vader frowned. The Force was with him as it always was, and his angry mood reflected it during his mediation on the Nubian ship. It was clear to him that Sidious had added a new piece to the board to further ensure he got what he wanted from this mission. Whether to see Vader dead or the GD in his place, it didn't matter. Sidious was going to play a hand where he would win no matter what the outcome. Even the failure to do both was a win for Sidious, since the inevitable fight with Maul would result in the Zabrak's death, which was something the Sith Lord wanted when sent to Naboo. Vader would have to make sure the victory Sidious wanted was bittersweet. Emphasis on the bitter. But this new piece on the board was new, and the Force told him it wouldn't interfere with his fight with Maul. While the GD were blinded by the dark side, Vader was not, since he used the dark side, and its power to see through the veil cast over the galaxy by his former master. As such, his conversation with Aurra Singh was not as private as the old man would like to believe. Sidious may have used the latest and most highly advanced encrypted communication technology to speak to his new pawn, but one could not hide such things with the Force. Especially since Vader knew the cipher needed to see through the dark side, masking Sidious's dark side presence from everyone. The question now was, how to draw Aurra Singh over to him instead of targeting the GD while he fought Maul. If he fought Maul, it was clear Aurra would go after the two GD to get that erotic sensation she received when killing them, results of the experimentation done to her when caught in her crosshairs. Vader knew she was highly skilled, and knew she had quite a few GD kills under her belt. As such, the odds of her succeeding were much better than the usual assassin, since Aurra herself was also Force sensitive, and was known to have her own lightsaber. The red one, of course. If Vader let the GD fight Maul, the would-be Sith would once again kill Qui-Gon in their fight, which left Anakin Skywalker in a precarious position. It would practically become a repeat of history all over again. Obi-Wan take Anakin as an apprentice out of obligation to Qui-Gon, Dooku turned Sith Lord, and almost everything that originally would have happened during the Clone Wars happens, with Sidious winning as the end result. No. The end result had to be both Maul and Aurra Singh dead, while the GD protected Padme when she made her way to the throne room to confront the Viceroy. In order to do that, he would need to lure one and trick the other before fighting both. Maul wouldn't be difficult to lure or trick. The animal wanted to fight him again. His bloodlust was easy to sense, and was waiting for him on Naboo with eager anticipation. Aurra Singh would not be so easy since she wanted to kill the GD first before coming after him, and also because she wanted him weakened from his fight with Maul, to ensure the odds of survival went up. We'll see about that, thought Vader, knowing the bait Aurra Singh. You have to give her something of worth taking. And he had it in the form of pain. With Aurra Singh, she had felt the connection through the Force almost instantly, and the mental attack just as fast, with the dark presence smashing against her mental shields, breaking them with ease and attacking her warped mind with painful images of the past. Images she had long since suppressed or tried to forget. Even using the damn biocomputer in her brain, those bastards put in her head to help keep the past buried. But this surprise mental attack had nearly fried it, and Aurra screamed out in sheer agony, rolling around on the floor of her ship, partially thanking herself for setting the course on autopilot earlier so she could prepare herself for the slaughter that was to come on Naboo. She tried to fight against the sudden intrusion and violation of her mind, but Aurra was no match for the power and the will behind the attack. You think you are something terrifying, Aurra Singh. You think you are something special in the world of bounty hunters and assassins. You are nothing. Nothing but whimpering, pathetic little child who was abandoned by her mother and later experimented on like a laboratory research specimen. That is what you are to the galaxy. You are a scientific abomination. It is no wonder the GD abandoned you. They saw the ugliness in you and tried to remove it as one removes a stain. But they failed and realized you are a stain. No one wants you. No one loves you. No one wants to be near you because you are a crude piece of living flesh that should have been put down years ago. Disgusting creature. The taunting words assaulting her mind as the attack slowly stopped bit deep into Aurra Singh's soul like a ravenous beast. She knew it was Vader who attacked her due to his dark Force presence being unmistakable. Only he would be so bold at this point to attack her in such a manner, to provoke her into focusing on him and only him over that of the two GDs she wanted to kill for the sake of pleasure. Only now, Aurra Singh wanted to kill Vader more, not just for the sake of her profession, but on a personal level for what he had just done to her. She had screamed, cried out in pain, even to her own humiliation, had resorted to begging for the Sith to stop. She had cried, whimpered, and curled up into a ball like a frightened child, while Vader's mocking tone echoed in the back of skull. It took some time for Aurra to regain her mental footing and seethed in rage at being mocked, tortured, and laughed at by this Sith Lord. Forget killing the two GD first. Forget what her client was paying her. Aurra Singh vowed she would kill Vader the moment she saw him. It would be slow. Painfully slow. Make him beg for death by the time Aurra was done with him. And after she killed Vader, the Zabrak would be next, if he wasn't already dead. After they were gone, she would kill the GD, the Queen, the handmaidens, her security detail, and anyone else that got in her way. She would make the galaxy fear her name from this one incident alone. Vader wanted her to target him. Fine. She would come after him and show the arrogant Sith what it meant to cross Aurra Singh. Naboo Gungan, sacred place. Darth Vader watched as the united front of Nubians and Gungans were working together to defeat the common enemy that was the Trade Federation. After the alliance was made between both parties, Vader had explained to everyone the mechanics behind how the battle droids worked. He explained that the station sends a signal down to the planet to all the battle droids and provides them the means to function. Without the station, the droids would shut down entirely with a simple push, causing them to fall over. They could wait for the Republic to amass a needed fleet to engage the Trade Federation in space, per the naive suggestion of Obi-Wan Kenobi, but Vader countered, saying they couldn't wait. If the Viceroy got wind of the Republic's plans, and he would, Naboo's enemy would seek to escape to a planet he owned, but was not in Republic space. The Viceroy could easily play the waiting game until an opportunity presented itself to get his desired revenge on the Queen, hiring bounty hunters or assassins to kill the Queen, even long after her term was up, and killing everyone associated with the woman. If they were going to defeat Viceroy, it had to be now. "You're enjoying this, aren't you, Lord Vader?" said Obi-Wan to Vader with a hint of accusation in his tone. "What do you mean?" asked Vader while Obi-Wan glaring at him. "The conflict, the impending death, the pain and suffering. How can a Sith not enjoy it?" said Obi-Wan while Vader glanced at him. "There's nothing to enjoy here, GD. Our side is about to lose lives, while the opposition is an army of near-mindless battle droids, each constructed using only the cheapest of parts and programming software made by the lowest bidder, all of which has been bought and paid for by an arrogant, tight-fisted Viceroy. Now if it was just the Viceroy and myself in a room about to fight while he was shaking in fear, things might be far more satisfying to me," said Vader, while the memory of the Viceroy on Mustafar begging him for mercy and being slain by his hands manifested itself in his mind. It was a very satisfying memory. "We need the Viceroy alive. He will be given a trial and be sentenced by the courts," said Obi-Wan firmly, while Vader wondered how naive this man could possibly be after what had happened in the Senate, or the way senators acted in the Senate during past proceedings. "It went so well the last time that happened," thought Vader to himself, while remembering how Sidious used his influence to prevent Newt Gunray from being thrown in jail. Various loopholes, bribes to high-ranking people, and lack of real evidence despite the everything to the contrary. When everything was presented to the Republic courts in the previous timeline, everyone was certain Gunray was going to pay for his crimes. How can you dispute the evidence of battle droids on Naboo? Or the people suffering in camps and testifying? Only for the stunted slime to get away without so much as a single jail sentence. It would take over a decade to give that smug fool the punishment he rightfully deserved. Nothing defined the term justice more in that moment when slaying Gunray, then slicing the fool in half with his lightsaber after begging for his life. He was going to enjoy repeating that moment in time. It might not be so simple as you believe, Obi-Wan. Even if we arrest the Viceroy, he will no doubt have powerful friends in the shadows using their influence to help him. It is clear that the corruption within the Senate runs deep. Had the Queen not presented the evidence collected by Lord Vader, I imagine certain things would be different right now, said Qui-Gon, who surprised his Padawan by coming to Vader's defense. "Master, you can't be serious?" questioned a shocked Obi-Wan, while Vader let out an amused chuckle. "The only one not taking this seriously is you, GD," said Vader before walking away to focus on something that caught his attention. Namely his childhood self. "Bonnie, you shouldn't be going with them," pleaded Shmi, while Anakin looked ready to join in on the plan to storm the palace. "But I have to go. I can feel it. Something is telling me to go with them," pleaded Anakin with his mother looking lost on what to do with him. "Is there a problem, Lady Skywalker?" asked Vader gently while approaching the two. "Oh? Lord Vader, I'm sorry if we have been making too much noise." "We apologize," said Shmi while feeling she knew this man in some way, but couldn't put her finger on it. His usually harsh eyes seemed to soften slightly when they stared right at her. "Don't apologize, Lady Skywalker. If more parents worried over their young offspring like you do, the galaxy would be a better place for it," said Vader, glancing at the boy before focusing on Shmi. "I have to go with Master Qui-Gon and the others. I keep telling her, but she says it is too dangerous," said Anakin, while hoping the Sith Lord would understand. "Ordinarily I would agree with your mother on this one, child. But given your connection to the Force you may have to go." As if compelled. "Do you know why?" questioned Vader since he never understood it back in his time as a child, but perhaps hearing it from his younger self would help understand the motivation for flying at this moment in his life. "I don't know. But I can feel it. Through the Force, I think. It speaks to me. Like when I'm in a pod racer. It is telling me to go with all of you to the palace and help in some way. To be there when everything important happens, said Anakin, while Vader nodded since he had felt the same way himself. The Force has a will of its own, child. It tells us things. Whispers things. Warns us of the dangers that seek to harm us or those we care about. It helps guides to us to do something important whether we know it or not. If the Force does speak to you in this manner, young Skywalker, it would be prudent to obey such a feeling. Provided you can stay safe in the background while everyone else is fighting, said Vader, while seeing Shmi looking even more uncomfortable with this situation, which was understandable to the Sith Lord. Pod racing was one thing. Throwing yourself into the middle of an all-out battle, if not war for a planet's future, was another matter entirely. I still don't like this, whispered Shmi with worry. Don't worry, Mom. I'll stay away from the fighting and hide where it's safe. Plus, we have Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan helping us, said Anakin, while pointing to the two Jedi with the set Jedi glancing in their direction. One was curious, and one was suspicious in regards to what the Sith Lord was talking to them about. In any case, Lady Skywalker, your son will not come to harm on this mission. I sense he will surprisingly be a great asset in the near future when needed most, said Vader before giving them a bow and leaving them to talk. He's up to something, said Obi-Wan with Qui-Gon observing Vader. Sith Lords usually are up to something, Obi-Wan. Always on the move. Still, I sense no deception. No malice in his intentions toward the boy. Only the opposite. As if he cares for them, said Qui-Gon with Obi-Wan shaking his head. A Sith caring for someone? Unlikely, remarked Obi-Wan while watching the Sith Lord carefully. We have other things to worry about, Obi-Wan. Like the other presence we sensed just now entering the planet's orbit on the other side of the palace, remarked Qui-Gon, while his Padawan grabbed his head. Like a headache was forming. Whoever it is, they are strong in the Force. Not as strong as Maul or Vader, but no less threatening. In fact, it's almost familiar, said Obi-Wan while wondering who it was they were sensing. Aurra Sing, said Qui-Gon knowingly. What? Her? But why is she here? Asked Obi-Wan, since he knew Aurra had killed quite a few Jedi and was not someone you crossed, no matter how skilled you were. I suspect the Sith Lord in hiding sent her. And I think it has something to do with our own Sith Lord being here causing problems for the Trade Federation, surmised Qui-Gon, while Vader stared in the direction of the Nubian palace with great interest. Meaning she is an ally of Maul, commented Obi-Wan while Qui-Gon shaking his head. No, I don't think so, Obi-Wan. At least not fully. I sense a rising level of anger in her. A level of hatred, bloodlust, and a desire to see Vader dead. Why she wants that above all things I don't know, said Qui-Gon while sensing Aurra's various emotions even from here. She was angry. Filled with hate. A fury had been awakened in her by something or rather someone provoking it. But why would Vader provoke her? What reasons did the Sith Lord have for provoking such a dangerous Force-sensitive assassin? One responsible for killing so many Jedi. Master? Asked Obi-Wan when sensing his master's emotions shift from shock to that of understanding. It's nothing, Obi-Wan. Just understanding the tactics of our polar opposite in the Force, said Qui-Gon before walking away to talk to the Queen, while Obi-Wan glanced from him to Vader and followed his master. To think the woman had disguised herself among her own handmaidens and fooled them all with the exception of Vader. He didn't look surprised in the slightest. It was as if he had always known the truth. But kept quiet to keep up the deception. What else was the Sith Lord hiding from them? Nubian Palace. Maul snarled at Aurra Sing. How he loathed anyone trying to take his targets from him. It was bad enough Vader made him look so weak and pathetic when they dueled, but now this assassin was here to help him kill his enemies. He did not need help. It was an insult. An insult to his pride. To his skills. To this title as a Sith. The only reason Maul did not slice the woman in half right now with his lightsaber was due to his master commanding it. He had informed Maul in advance of Aurra Sing would be heading to the planet to help him combat Vader and the Jedi. Maul wanted to protest the decision, but the snarl from his master and the glare that followed shut the Zabrak up completely. Sidious was his master and defying him. Now it would only result in agonizing pain when this was over. So for now, Maul would do what his master commanded of him. But when this was over and his enemies were dead all around him, the Sith would slay Aurra Sing simply out of spite for the woman being a part of his kills. Maul knew deep down that the act of killing the assassin would not hurt Sidious on any level, given his own experiences with how his master treated others. But damn, would it feel really good when it was all over. They're moving toward us. The Sith is mine. You can kill the 2 GD, said Maul to Aurra Sing, while the woman snarled with anger. Not a chance. That Sith Lord needs to be paid for attacking me like he did. The GD will not interest me until after this Darth Vader is brought down and dead. If you get in my way, I will kill you, threatened. While Maul looked back with his hate and very primal instincts, clawing at the back of his skull. It was almost a shame in Maul's mind that she was this way with him. The woman would have made a suitable mate to carry his own offspring. Unfortunately, Aurra Sing was, at the moment, almost standing in the way of his kills, his desire for revenge, and was being extremely disrespectful by talking back to him. I'm going to enjoy bathing in your blood when this is over, assassin, threatened Maul while hearing the battle going on outside of the palace. Funny, I could say the same to you, Sith, remarked Aurra while watching from their hidden position as the Nubian resistance fort led by 2 GD and 1 Sith Lord tore through the army of battle droids. It was almost time. With the Nubian resistance, Vader savagely sliced through the battle droids like they were nothing. Which was easy because they were nothing. Years of experience, skill, training, and other things made his work on them seem incredibly easy. While the 2 GD were passive-aggressive in their advancement and fighting the battle droids at their own pace, Vader was just aggressive. After the speeder with the blaster turret fire too. Gaining the attention of the enemy, the Sith Lord made his move. Redirection, one blaster shot from the battle tank back at the battle tank, and the other one he crushed with ease using the dark side of the Force. He threw the crushed tank in its now ball form into a large group of battle droids, taking cover from the Nubian resistance fighters shooting at them. And he didn't once lose his stride. That simple fact alone was something quite few of the people behind him still couldn't believe even after seeing it. Eventually, the group made their way to the hangar bay, where upon entering, they were met with much more resistance. Vader skillfully cut a path through the droids in his way in order for the pilots to get to the fighters and fly toward the droid battle station above them. When the Droidekas rolled into the position, new blaster bolts from their weapons wouldn't penetrate the energy shield they had. At the moment, they were firing on them and had killed quite a few of the Queen's group. Behind the Sith Lord, Anakin Skywalker had just gotten into a Nubian fighter, the ever-faithful R2-D2 with him, and within seconds the two were flying off into space. After blasting the Droidekas to pieces. That brings back memories, thought Vader with a smirk before he walked with the group toward the doors that would lead them to the fastest route toward the throne room. Only for them to open, and Darth Maul appeared in all of his terrifying Sith glory, staring at them with his eyes burning with hatred. Aurra Sing was also there, blaster rifle in hand, aimed at the group, and a snarl on her face. We'll handle this, commented Qui-Gon while he and Obi-Wan walked forward. No, you won't. This fight is mine. Stay with the Queen, said Vader while he walked in front of both GD and gave Padme a trust me stare. We'll go the long way, said Padme while she and the others went around with the GD reluctantly following. You should have kept the help, Vader. Now your death is assured, remarked Aurra Sing with confidence in her voice. By your hands. You couldn't even a mental attack from me. And I wasn't even using my full power. What makes you think facing me in open combat will be any different? Said Vader while Maul removed his Sith robes and then clipped his lightsaber on both sides in an attempt to intimidate his opponent. Enough talking. It's time to see which Sith here will have the privilege of survival, said Maul while Vader smirked. Indeed, said Vader before he effortlessly crushed Aurra's blaster rifle to keep her from using it. You think I need a blaster rifle to kill you? Fool. I was once trained by the GD. I have fought GD. I have killed GD. Killing you will be just as easy and a lot more satisfying, said Aurra before she pulled out her own lightsaber and ignited the red blade. And you are even bigger fool. If you knew who and what I really was, if you only knew the truth of what I am, you would run. Run and never look back, said Vader coldly. His own lightsaber was activated. And his red blade came out. And what are you exactly? Besides, a soon-to-be rotting corpse. Taunted Aurra Sing while she snarled at him and saw him remove the Sith robes from his body. Death, whispered Vader while the dark side seemed to explode around like a monster rising to its full height. Not this day, said Maul with his voice sounding raw simply from feeling the dark side coming from his opponent. Aurra was no better. She was sweating now and felt her confidence dwindling. While she was skilled in fighting with a lightsaber, her skills were not that of a GD Knight or the level of a GD Master. She preferred sniping or shooting over using the ancient weapon to not only spite the GD when killing them, but to keep those painful memories of her time as a GD apprentice at bay. With a roar like an animal, Maul charged first, spinning his lightsaber in an aggressive fashion that allowed the weapon to kill with such ruthlessness. His bloodlust and hate from channeling the dark side of the Force clashed with Vader's own. But it did little to push Vader back, as the man had long since perfected his skills to the point where he was a solid wall of near unmovable power. No matter how agile or skilled Maul was with the double-bladed lightsaber, he was no match for Vader's seemingly impenetrable defense. And it only infuriated Maul when Vader pushed him back with ease before he went on the offensive against his Zabrak, unclipped, and ignited a second lightsaber. The one he took from Maul on Tatooine. "You dare use what is mine?" demanded Maul before he and Aura were dancing around Vader in an intricate battle of death before they all locked blades again. "You lost the right to wield this lightsaber when you first lost to me back on that desert planet, animal," said Vader, as he forced the fighting out of the hangar toward the plasma generator, and put both his enemies on the defensive. Maul found his room to maneuver was decreasing. Aura also found herself in a similar situation when the Zabrak leaped backward to land on another platform. This left Aura to fight Vader alone, which the assassin cursed Maul for doing, and had to fight the Sith Lord wielding two lightsabers to her one. It didn't help that Vader was apparently skilled in the art of wielding two. Aura never fought anyone who wielded two lightsabers until today. GD rarely ever used two lightsabers these days, just as they no longer use double-bladed ones, since it was too aggressive from what the GD thought of them these days. So it was no wonder that Aura not only lost her lightsaber after it was cut through by a well-timed strike by Vader. She tried to gain some distance from him, but the Sith Lord would not have it. He pulled Aura toward him before he sliced through one of her arms, followed by a leg, an expertly executed spin strike with both lightsabers severing her head. Aura Singh would not be killing GD, common people, or high-ranked politicians ever again after this. Turning to face Maul, Vader saw the animal did not care for Aura Singh's death. In fact, he seemed pleased by it. Vader suspected the fool would have tried to kill her after the fighting was over simply to prove himself superior. Not that it mattered, Vader had no intention of losing against one or both of them. With Aura Singh no longer in the equation here, Vader could focus entirely on Maul and end him like he should have been from the start. But first, he wanted to up the Zabrak one more time, to really make the animal foam at the mouth. And Vader knew just how to do it. With ease, Vader slowly dismantled the double-bladed lightsaber in his hand, watching as Maul's face got angry again, and his eyes narrowed in fury at the humiliation of having his weapon taken apart. Even worse, the crystals inside were taken out and pocketed within Vader's clothing. This was done by Vader to not only infuriate Maul, but he intended to use the crystals themselves to make backup lightsabers, since he still had a habit of losing or destroying them. These crystals were synthetic, which made them easier to make and more powerful to use. Personally, Vader preferred the natural Force-attuned Kyber crystals, since they felt more in harmony with the Force. But he wasn't about to abandon this opportunity to have such a potential resource at his side and not use it. That would be foolish and stupid. Speaking of foolish and stupid people, Maul was waiting for him now in anticipation of a fight on his terms. The man wasn't about to give up his position to Vader, and Vader had learned the hard way what it means to leap over someone with a lightsaber to take the high ground. His duel on Mustafar with Obi-Wan had taught him a lot in that regard. So with that in mind, Vader walked to the edge of the floor where the large gap between him and Maul kept the two from fighting. Maul knew he had an advantage right now and was waiting for Vader to make the jump in order to slice the Sith Lord in half. Of course, Vader wasn't about to make the same mistake twice, and decided on a different course of action. He used the Force to break off a piece of the ground underneath him, and floated over the gap toward a now shocked Maul. Before the Zabrak could do anything, Vader used the Force to shove Maul back 15 feet. With his enemy now further back, Vader landed on the long single road in front of him, and casually walked forward toward the Zabrak. Maul of course had decided to kick up off the ground and charge him with the intent to let the full potential of his double-bladed lightsaber be brought down on his foe. Sadly for Maul, lightsaber form V Xian Gem so was the perfect form to use against him, and Vader was an uncontested master of it. Within a matter of seconds, Maul went from offense to defense, spinning his lightsaber on both ends try knocking Vader back. But the Sith Lord was anything if not persistent, and kept pushing the Zabrak back further into the heart of the plasma generator room. The two kept going deeper into the heart of the main reactor until they were impeded by an energy wall, and gave both warriors a few minutes of reprieve. Or rather, Maul was given a reprieve. He was sweating heavy from using so much energy in trying to kill Vader, and yet Vader himself did not look winded in the slightest. It was unnerving to the Zabrak. He trained relentlessly every day. His overall speed, strength, and stamina was high even for Zabrak standards. So for him to be exhausted, yet Vader didn't have so much as a single bead of sweat coming down his face. How could this Sith not be exhausted? How could he not be slightly tired? How could this Darth Vader just stand there looking bored as if the fight was nothing to him? It was infuriating Maul to no end. How are you this strong? Asked Maul while Vader just stood there. As I told you before, Nina, it is because you don't know what it means to hate, replied Vader while Maul snarled. So you say, but there is more to it than you are telling me, said Maul, while the signs of the energy wall separating them began to shut down. Indeed. And I see no point in telling you. One cannot teach dead men, replied Vader before the energy wall went down, and the two began to fight once more. I will not lose to you. I cannot lose. I am the future of the Sith, exclaimed Maul after he barely leaped out of the way of an attack by Vader. It cost him one part of his lightsaber though. Fortunately, he still had the other side that was functioning properly. One of the rare benefits of a double-bladed lightsaber, though it all depended where the damage was done to the weapon. You have no future, remarked Vader before he pressed the attack, and not giving Maul time to dodge or use his agility to escape his onslaught. No. This would end now. This would end with Maul dead by his hands. Unlike Obi-Wan, he would not assume Maul was dead after being sliced in half at the waist. Obi-Wan had confessed to him during the end of the Clone Wars how Maul had not died on Naboo. At the time, Anakin Skywalker provided comfort to his master. But now as Vader, the Sith Lord saw Obi-Wan's actions were those of a fool who should have looked for the body instead of just assuming. Jedi nor Sith should assume anything when wanting an enemy they really wanted killed above all others. Not until they did the act instead of relying on the subordinate to do it. As for Maul, he was almost driven down to his knees with the powerful blows Vader was hitting him with right now. While strong given his Zabrak physiology, Vader was able to simply overpower him, and it was mind-boggling. To be bested by another Sith Lord not his master, possibly stronger than his master in the dark side, and skilled in the ways of combat. I was wrong about Vader. About myself. He is not a heretic. I am not the future. He is the future, thought Maul for the last time before Vader got through his defense, sliced off both his arms at the elbow. The force-spinning slice took his head from his body. You are next, Sidious. It won't be now. It won't be tomorrow. It won't even be for another 10 years, but when the time comes you will die. Thought Vader, knowing Sidious was going to seek out a new apprentice, if only a temporary one, to help him prepare and help with the Clone Wars until Anakin Skywalker was ready to take the apprentice's place. Count Dooku came to mind. Though at the moment, the man was still a Jedi Master, so there was still time to keep the man from being pulled into Sidious's grasp. There were also other players he would need to obtain in the next 10 years to prepare for the Clone Wars and the violence that was to come. But for change to happen, for the prophecy to happen, and for Anakin Skywalker to get the happiness he deserved that others denied him in the previous timeline, Vader would have to take control of the Clone Wars to some degree. And he knew just how to do it.